Hello everybody and welcome to the list video here at Playing Board Games. I'm joined by Daniel from Quick Learner. We are doing it's not been that long since we've done a list video, but it feels like it's been a while because, time just keeps on going. We have a fun topic today though, which is 3 archetypes we want to see revisited for Arkham Horror the card game. I think rather than talk about what archetypes are, we should just dive into the archetypes we have on this list. So Daniel, I'm going to throw it to you with your first archetype, which is...
Oh, right. I named them somehow. Okay, it's not the look what I found archetype. It is the fail by archetype. And I know you've talked about this a lot, and I have too, that this is an archetype that is in the core set. We've got Rabbit's Foot, we've got Look What I Found, and every now and then during the rest of the expansions, they threw in something that cared about, hey, if you fail by 2 or less, or something like that, then something actually good happens instead, well, in addition to failing. So we have things like Oops, in Dunwich, we have Dumb Luck, I think, in Forgotten Age, and sometimes they throw us a bone. I think even the most recent, no, the previous expansion to that, Hemlock Vale, has the parlay. I think it's Stall for Time. If you fail, you get to return the card back to your hand, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But really, the archetype had its full-blown deck in Stella Clark, who cares about doing this on her investigator card. And then after that, after a lot of cool cards, Derringer, Chainsaw, etc., that care about her failing and getting some other benefit alongside her extra action, we've just gotten basically nothing. Every now and then there's one card, but they're not really as good as what came out in that deck or before. And it's a little sad to see, just Look What I Found and Chainsaw or Derringer, just you play the Stella Clark deck, and that's kind of it. And I wish we got something else just to spice up Stella a bit more. And I would like to see other investigators who care about this too, because I don't know if you've noticed, Justin, but in the last number of sets, the Survivor has had like a pretty damn good number, like a 5 or maybe a 4. And they don't feel like the Survivor thing from earlier where they were trying to take advantage of failing anymore. They're just gonna feel like every other class that just makes their number good and passes the test in the first place.
Yeah, I think that Survivor has been the winner in the last 3 cycles, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I think that like in Scarlet Keys, they got the best clue cards in a long time. Shed a Light, Old Keyring 3. Couple this with Scavenging, they just kept on winning, right? In Feast of Hemlock Vale, while they didn't get the best like fighting cards, because I think like Survivor weapons are improving, but I think Survivor weapons as a whole are really good. They got some kick-ass other cards to go with it. Like Hunting Jacket is, I think, one of the quietest, just like most efficient resource cards made in a very long time. And then in Drowned City, they got one of the most efficient investigators ever printed. It's just insane what George Barnaby is capable of. And then they also got an entire discard package that just works very well, right? So yeah, it has been very not Survivor feeling, where like now Survivors are kind of becoming almost like too good. Like they're not really surviving anymore. They're like just crushing, right? Like,
That's exactly it. Like, I love the discard archetype, and that's fine. Like, it works for lots of Survivors that we've had throughout the game's lifespan, but it just feels like, to borrow a term from you, a lot of value when the Survivor shtick was not doing that. It was like scrapping by and just making things work. And you know what's interesting? We have not seen an all threes Survivor. We've never gotten one. And I just feel like we don't need the 5s. It doesn't really make sense with the ethos of the game, but maybe bring it down a notch and hovering a little bit on skill value to difficulty level will bring out another failure archetype. I don't know what those cards would be. That's not what this video is about, but it just feels like they gave us some tools for this, and now they get almost entirely supplanted by the new stuff.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing Stella.
So my hope is that with Current, the design team looks at what's in Current, so what's always there, and then they use that as inspiration for what to include next, right? I've done 2 videos of this on the channel. I'm going to do for the rest of the remaining classes, but like looking at current and the core set, because core set can be like the inspiration of what the class can do. And I think then also by extension, the investigator decks are also what the class can do, because those, as far as we know, are going to stay current forever, right?
Yeah.
So my hope is that they look what I found and they say, yeah, that is like, that's really good. However, with that said, something that I think has proven to be a failure for other card games in the past that have had standard formats, which is what current is. So we're talking about like specifically Hearthstone and Magic. Having a set player card pool that never changes can be actually pretty bad in the long term, at least for competitive games. I don't know how that's going to worry about cooperative games, but I'm curious to see if one day like Stella, Nacho, Harvey, Jacqueline, and Winnie all rotate out and we get like new starter decks. But I think that at least for while they're here, it'd be really nice to see the fail expanded. So also Stella can be a little bit more interesting for people, because like if you look at a new player just jumping into current, they grab the core box and like Stella, and then they buy a new box and they have all these new toys to play with Stella. I think would be really cool.
Yeah, it just felt weird having played George Barnaby and I didn't have this card in the deck because I was never failing investigate checks. It just felt like I'm not playing a survivor anymore. I mean, you are, because the discard stuff is a big component, but I think up until the recent batch, you could make a good case for the ones that were trying to investigate actually playing Look What I Found anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Hank. Hank can play this because he's just going to fail the tests. But the other investigators, you know, Calvin, Wendy, etc., could pull this off. And that's just not what we got from the last few sets.
Yeah, I think that for the longest time they wanted like survivors to be the 4 brain, 4 foot class and everything else 3 or under, and I think that is gone at this point now.
Yep.
All right, let's go to my first one on this list, which is, Daniel doesn't know these ones. I know Daniel's, but this one I left secret. It's just your list again. That'd be really funny. No, my first one is the ceiling archetype. This is something that I've been saying for a while I would love to see them revisit. They touched on it in the Forgotten Age. And in Drowned City, we got Agatha, who cares about sealing, ignoring, or canceling tokens. But none of those cards actually did anything neat with the archetype, right? And like Agatha, for example, her ability to seal is mostly on her Ocula Obscura, because that card is just kind of like pure gas, right? So what I want from Sealed is exploration of the mechanic. I think that's ultimately the thing that I want the most from Arkham, which is just taking all these cool mechanics they have and then asking, yeah, but how can we like change what this is, right? Like, how can we change what this effect is? I actually reached out to Beard right after I made this list, because I was like, I have all these ideas for the sealed mechanic. I'm like, imagine a sealed card that was like an event, which was like when a player would resolve a token, they resolve a token sealed on one of your cards, then discard that card, right? So like, you could turn Crystalline Elder Sign into an Elder Sign. You can like crack it open and like the little like blue ether flows out. Or like an asset that if it's sealed a 0 or a -1, and then it had an effect that was basically just like Randolph Carter, where if someone at your location reveals one of those tokens, they get to draw a card, right? Like, it's like turn your sealed tokens into a resource. And that's something that I actually enjoyed about the idea of Parallel Father Mateo. And something that I mentioned where, say, for example, an investigator who had a sealed token on them that was a blessed sealed token was considered to be a blessed investigator. Now you have a new whole thing that you can explore. It's like an investigator gains a resource and draws a card. If that investigator is blessed, they draw 2 and gain 2 instead, right? Like all these kind of things that if you just take what this mechanic is and stretch it as far as you can design space wise, it can lead to like new discoveries, which I really would love to see.
interesting because when you think about the Forgotten Age cards, we're looking at one of them right here. They either do this where it's a cost, maybe it's just this one,
Yeah.
or they're doing you're sealing for like I want to get rid of this token, like the
Yeah.
Chthonian Stone. Well, I mean, I guess that's not true. Uh the spell,
Shard
what's
of
the
the
spell
Void.
called again?
Yeah.
Shards of the Void. Thank you.
Treats it as
That one seals
charges.
a 0. It's kind of like a cost, sort
Yeah.
of, but also makes you want to do token manipulation. Like they're all kind of cool. And then we got seal again in Innsmouth. That's really just to resolve the bless or curse tokens or hide them
Yeah.
or use them as a resource. That's okay. But maybe it's because Drowned City is so new, but I feel like they're all kind of just a cost. They're all just seal this here in order to do the other thing, like Bulwark,
Yeah,
Misdirection.
they're a cost, or like they're basically like uses on the card. They're basically just
Yeah.
like they use sealed as usage, which I think is like an okay place to expand on the archetype here. But I feel like get weird with it, right? Like
Yeah.
just see what can fall out if you turn sealed upside down. See what happens.
Yeah, that's a good one because it literally they just did revisit it, but maybe they could do a lot more. So
Yeah,
I'm with
yeah.
you.
I'd also love to see like there's just so much power you have as a designer to try out crazy things. And I think that ultimately Arkham doesn't go wild enough with some of the design. Like even just like seal an enemy at your location. Just like even like take like change of what seal is and just like they can make a new rule, right? You may be saying, but Justin, that doesn't work. They have the power to make anything work.
They make a lot of new rules every time, so
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. All right, let's go to your number 2, which is
Okay, this is the one that is about having damage or horror on you, or at least having not so much remaining sanity or health. So it's kind of like the
desperate.
desperate
You wrote
archetype, but it's
desperate
more
too,
than
yeah.
that. I put Providential here as like an example of when they tried doing something with this in Hemlock Vale. But ultimately, like, man, poor Hank. I feel like they didn't really understand his deck ability, or sorry, his ability to, do this to take damage for other players. Because there's nothing in the set that takes advantage of him doing it. The only thing we really get is this card, which is, in my estimation, totally wrong. It shouldn't be for whichever is less. It should be for whichever one you want, whichever is more probably, right?
Yep.
Like this is not encouraging you to take damage or horror, which I think Hank should want to do. Obviously, I played him recently. If you never use his ability, he's fine. But that's not what makes an investigator interesting. You need cards that tell you to use your ability as much as possible and take extra advantage beyond just the basic, this is good to keep other people alive, which it is. But I don't think it's so good that you don't need to print other things that take advantage of that. Like everyone else gets cards that take extra advantage of their investigator ability. So this one is just sort of a sad attempt, unfortunately. I think the card like does something, but it should be encouraging you way more to put damage or horror on you. Or have not so much left, like the desperate skills from Carcosa. I think those were interesting. They had the St. Hubert's key to try to make it so you could play those more often.
Yep.
But ultimately, there was no other advantage to being at death's doorstep, which is kind of the playstyle that is missing here.
Yeah.
Calvin, we don't need to litigate Calvin any more than everyone already has, but he's trying to do that, and yet there are no cards that give him the ability give him extra advantage to do that other than like fight or flight. So if we had an asset or something else that was like fight or flight to give you more benefits for having a bunch of horror or damage or both on you, then we start to be cooking a bit, because there's a lot of investigators who can tank, but York and Tommy and Daniela, most of them are assigning those that damage to their assets, not to their investigator card. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% spot on that this would be a great archetype to explore. Just like Travis has said it as a bunch too, like just like trauma, the idea of like trauma being something you can leverage, not to like heal, but like as a way to get a head start on things like this as well. And also like that risk reward playoff, the desperate thing feels very Survivor as well, which would be really neat.
Yep.
But I think you're 100% right too that Providential is just a nightmare of a card. And if they just made it whichever is more, it becomes so much more engaging because now it allows a player to be like, yeah, but can I get 8 bless tokens in the bag with one card? And that's
Oh
so
yeah.
much more exciting than being like, what does this get me 2 bless tokens, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's unfortunate that this card, I always forget this card exists. And when you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah, this one. It's because exactly that. Like, it's just
Yeah.
whichever is less is just, that's killer, man. It just like stops the dream, it stops the card, and it just like shows that I think that this whole archetype that you want revisited, which is damage and horror on you, it's like Doom. It should be pushed because it is a risk reward. So the risk should be high, but the reward should be higher. Yeah.
And like this card in particular, maybe someone's going to try to make an argument in the comments about like, this is good for 2 XP, it's an unexpected courage plus a keep faith. Like, fine, this card shouldn't exist at 2 XP then if it's too good to add 8 bless tokens and make it 3 XP. I don't care.
Yep.
The point is that the archetypes need to exist to encourage particular play styles, and this ain't doing it. So
Yep. And
That's
even
it for this one, I
even if someone is saying it'd be too good at 2 XP to add 8 bless tokens because it's a keep faith plus unexpected courage, good. If it's good, different people will use it for different reasons, right? Like Sister Mary, or well, she can't even play it, but like Father Mateo is not going to play this card. Hank Sampson, Kelvin Wright are going to play this card. And like they should be boosted because, well, yes, I think Hank is good. He has a lot of weaknesses that I don't think that make him feel weaker than other people. And Kelvin Wright, he should have. This is something that Travis says. The thing about Kelvin Wright is that everyone else kind of just like takes advantage of what he wants to do better. But if there were cards that were uniquely good that Kelvin was able to take higher advantage of, like, let that happen. It should happen.
yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to me that they rarely print or barely ever printed things that are for these investigators. So maybe they're afraid of something,
Yep.
but it's scary. I don't. Maybe it's scary for people to play with at death's doorstep. So as you said, there should be some reason to do that beyond just extra stats, because we all know that's not good enough. Everyone else is trying to do that too. So I just don't think that it needs to be the investigator card that is responsible here. It's the player cards that are doing a lot of heavy lifting for, I think, a lot of decks in the first place. So print some more things, and then we start looking at these other investigators differently.
Yep.
And like I said before, it's like we have the Thorns type archetype, which plays into this. The problem is that those are different kinds of investigators who are taking their damage elsewhere.
Yep.
They don't need to put it on their own investigator card.
Yep.
So,
But
by the way, this is cheating a little bit because I know you and Beard are kind of creating cards that are in this same vein too.
yes.
So, got a little inspiration from you already.
You know, that's I totally get it. But to echo what we were just saying with the Thorns archetype, but if this, for example, if you were able to support from the design team official content that made it so that you took damage on yourself more, you would see the beautiful thing where archetypes merge together, and you get to see Thorns that is self-soak, right? Like that thing can start coming to be a possibility that can happen. I think like Agnes Baker is a good example of this, where she plays things differently, and if more people can like do that stuff supported by their card pool, because like Agnes, like if this was whichever is more, we just unlocked it also an Agnes Baker Bless deck, right? Like that's
Absolutely, yeah. Like there's a few things here and there. Like the Exploding Goat kind of has a little bit there, but it's just moving things off of you is part of the point of that card, which works in Hank okay, but not in Calvin so much. So it's interesting, right? Like there's a few pieces, but they really could revisit this to make it more of a cohesive archetype, because the investigators are there. Like and you could play these cards in a Tommy or York too. It's just that you play things a little differently.
Yeah. All right, let's go to my number 2, which is the meat grinder.
Ooh, I love the meat
So
grinder.
yeah, it's so right now basically only Leo Anderson does this because he plays allies for cheap and he gets it for free, right? But I feel like this whole concept of meat grinding through your allies. So the thing is that they're cheap allies that give you a boost, and you use them for other effects. You use them while they're here, and then they're just gone. Other examples are Treasure Hunter, Priest of Two Faiths, Laboratory Assistant, Art Student, all this kind of stuff. And I think it's a very fun archetype where it fulfills a different fantasy than like I've brought my ally with me that's here forever, right? Like me and Dr. Maul and Christopher are going to save the day. This one is very much of like this is a gaggle of people going into the woods outside of Dunwich to fight some unseen entities, and they just start getting crushed one by one, right? I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that I would see outside of Leo. I think it's a little bit fricked up that like the only like ally focused investigators we have are Leo and Charlie in terms of that kind of stuff. There are some exceptions to the rule. For example, Dexter Drake can throw stuff into the meat grinder very well for different reasons, mostly because he turns them into other things with the power of magic. No one asks where they go after the magic trick happens. Don't worry about that. But I think even just like some we saw the hit and run, which kind of fits into this concept of meat grinding, where the idea is that you want to be using allies that have good enter or leave effects. I'd also love to see some leave effects on allies, which I think could be really cool. I just think there's a lot of space within this idea of allies are expendable, but they have a very basic effect. Would be really cool to expand on. And spoilers for last week's list video, which I haven't recorded yet, but it's going to be coming out. It came out last week. This was a big reason why I really want to see a parallel Leo Anderson, because I think that I would love to see a different take where instead of having this idea of the Leo Anderson that has a bunch of people on his expedition, he literally is like evil Leo Anderson, where he's using them as fodder to just get his means, into the means, right?
That's really funny. So I think the problem with these decks is that they often, so like Leo and Charlie kind of have the extra ally slot going on, right? Either through Mitch or just inherently. Charisma obviously is a solution here. So I think we just need like a new ally focused investigator who can give this a little bit more oomph. Because like the Miskatonic archaeology funding suggests that you can play an ally deck like this in Seeker. And yet I don't think I've seen Harvey decks do this, right? That's the card came out in his set. I mean, they just do other things, right? But theoretically, you could cycle through art students, laboratory assistants, medical students. But I just haven't seen that deck in Seeker. I don't know why not.
No.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you
No,
seen it?
The only time I've seen people do the archaeology funding is to get Dr. Milan, Whit and Green, and then like Jeremiah Kirby in play.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's true though.
Yeah.
It's like I think that, I mean, art student. I mean, sorry, laboratory assistant. I think is a crazy strong ally. And I mean, Dr. Milan takes up a lot of space, right? But I think it's the ally slot problem that really like makes it work. That makes it like not work and makes this hard to approach. But I think the big thing that would matter to help this is not so much what we've seen already from these meat grinder allies, but instead ideas of like the whole, if this ally leaves play, or if this ally is like, like something like that, or like when more like enters effects to also help hit and run. I still think it's crazy they made hit and run and then was like, no, we're good. We're not going to make any allies that synergize with this. And that's something I hope changes when we have current, right? Because they're now designing for more of like a microscope. So it's less like we're going to design hit and run and be like, you can use it with Jeremiah Kirby. It's we're going to design hit and run, and here's an ally in the box you can use and an ally in the next 2 boxes to support it.
Yeah, agreed. And I kind of find these guys, Hired Muscle and Treasure Hunter, to be interesting because they give a stat boost. So they're like the B Cups and field agents or whatever of the world where you get something like that you want them in play because you're taking skill tests, right? But yeah, like you're talking about other kinds of effects that you want to get rid of them probably as soon as possible. Like this guy, you can pay him off for a little while, but maybe you can do a little better than that with some more fun shenanigans where you rotate through more rapidly.
Yeah. I could also see rogue events that are like Mythos Protection, where you have to sacrifice an ally. So it's like, and you draw an enemy, discard an ally from play, it enters play exhausted, right? Like, it's just like he ate that guy instead.
Cool.
Like,
I like
yeah,
that.
And then also you get an exhausted ally, which we know rogues like, exhausted enemy, which we know rogues love, right? Yeah.
Make that card, Justin.
I will. All right. Let's go to your last archetype here, which is...
This is Rogues Cheat. And I don't think this is an archetype that really exists, but
No.
there's like a little bit of pieces here and there, especially from the core set with this card, that kind of have this, color pie that rogues should have, that they ignore some part of the game or they just get to cheat some part of the rules. So what do we really have? We have got this one, which is a 3xp lucky kind of. It's a really good card, but people don't really play this, at least on standard. Maybe that's going to change when people play current more. I don't know. But I like that idea of this. It directly interacts with the game in a mechanic like that doesn't... There's no real... I don't know. I guess the thematic part is you're pulling a different card out or something at your gambling table, whatever it is. But then there's Cheat Death, right? Kind of a horribly overcosted card that allows you to just not get defeated if you're dying from damage or horror. Very good, but probably not 5 XP good. There's maybe Justify the Means that lets you automatically succeed on a test. 3 Aces sort of does that too. Anything else you can think of that kind of fits this?
I mean, like,
idea?
they have, like, the gambling theme, but I think that's a little bit different than, like, the cheating theme, right? Like, the cheating theme implies, like, do things differently. I think, like, another close one is You Handle This One. I know
Yes.
it feels like it's like it doesn't feel the same flavor, but it really is just being like, no, this is your problem, right?
No, that's definitely on my list that I made earlier of kind of cheating cards. And maybe the other one is like Elusive from the core set,
Yep.
which just is like, I'm going to buzz off and you can be someone else's problem. Or, the crazy teleportation on the untabooed version is very much feels like cheating.
Yeah.
So this is the rub with the idea, is that it's hard to make cards that cheat, but also are balanced. And one thing that they could do, and maybe it's treading a little bit too much on Mystic territory, of there being some kind of downside, whether it's you take trauma for doing that, or you start the next scenario with fewer resources, I don't know, something like that, that could have a cost to doing these pretty neat effects. But I just feel like it's something I want them to try. I'm not here to design cards with you off the top of my head, but I think it's something that could be part of the color pie. And here's the other reason why. It's because a lot of rogue cards nowadays, and this is maybe broken record from the Survivor discussion at the beginning, feel like you're just playing any old I can pass any test. Right? You have Well Connected, you have Moxie, you have, I don't know, whatever you can pull off that are just... doesn't feel like the original rogue designs where you had a glaring weakness and you have to figure out a way to get around that. And You Handle This One, I think, isn't played as much because you can figure out how to pass those tests or deal with that enemy on your own terms better now with cards like Savant or whatever else. Counter Espionage, I think, is actually maybe an okay cheating card in the same sense, but I just feel like there should be more interesting, different kinds of answers to the scenario's problems than just now I can pass the test.
Yeah. I also feel like rogues and mystics have a very big cross, like they cross the streams a bunch in their idea that they can get weird what they do, but they can just do it in different flavor ways, right? Like, like I don't think it would be out of pie for rogues to have a card that was like a permanent at the start of the scenario. You add an extra, like they can't do this because of physical. This is just like a wild example, but like you add an extra Elder Sign and auto fail to the bag, right? Like kind of like the whole kind of thing where it's just like going crazy with the luck, you know? Like, I could see that existing in the rogue pie or the mystic pie. Like, that's kind of the point here. But they both have like kind of like change the rules of the game that either class, they just do it in different ways. Mystics do it with magic, rogues do it by literally like stacking their deck, you know?
Right, and that's where I think they could explore things more, is where they more directly affecting the rules. I know that's impossible to balance, at least for us to do in 20 minutes, but maybe they can work on this a bit, where they could do things like maybe choose one of, I don't know, maybe use the deck of possibilities, right, from Fortune or Fate, like you randomly have some rule you could ignore this scenario, whether it's, I don't know, I don't know what it would be, but something crazy that you could pull off, but this is something that is a little bit more out of your control, or something that has a bigger cost to it. But I think that would be fun to dip into ignoring something that's really a core rule issue. Like maybe when you move, you can move twice instead of once. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that actually is a very interesting way to look at it, because if you really strip it down, that was kind of just like what rogues were at the start. Even though it doesn't seem the way it is, Leo DeLuca is kind of like just breaking a rule of the game, right? Where like just that additional action sounds like rule text, but if you strip it down, it is exactly what you're saying. Like people are like, why? But that doesn't make sense. Why would I break the rule if I move an extra time? But just think of that as an ally, which was like, it's just like track shoes, right? It's the same sort of thing. And a rogue ally that was just like, after you move to a location, you can move to an adjacent location. That's exactly what you're saying, and that is kind of just like breaking the rules. They could just like word it a different way, you know? It's actually something that I've said that I want to see, like Double or Nothing. I wish it was tabooed to be only criminals, because I feel like that is kind of the fun flavor here too, because Double or Nothing is kind of flavor-wise also cheating, but not so much. I think that this is a great one. This is something that we talked about during Rogue Week too. I'd love to see this whole flavor and thing revisited.
Yeah, and let me be clear, like when I say I want them to cheat, I don't want them to literally cheat. It's just that they're bending something about the rules, and it's up to the designers to figure out how to make that not just insane. But I think it's fun and flavorful for them to be trying to interact with that part of the game that otherwise doesn't get touched in quite the same way. Like Chaos Bag manipulation for Mystics is kind of that, right? Draw two instead of one, right?
It is. It's like, it is cheating in Rogues. Like, Rogues should have Chaos Bag manipulation. I really think they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's cheating. Like even Defiance, you could flavor that as a rogue card. That's crazy. You opened up. I've seen something I haven't seen before with this, so thank you. All right, let's go to my last one, which is actually a card that is the Archetype Survival Technique.
I forgot about this.
This is, I think, one of the coolest cards they've made in a long time. This is something that Beard pointed out to me that I didn't realize, but the thing that I like in design when I'm thinking of stuff is a card that I look at and be like, but what can you do with it, right? And this is the sort of thing that is, but what can you do with it? This card does nothing by itself. I know it has that thing on the bottom, but that doesn't really actually like end up mattering for this card. It's a good effect to make it not dead, but what this does is it now opens up pathways to so many other cards being relevant. And it's a shame that it hasn't really been expanded on. I mean, it's only been one cycle. Like it was Drowned City, right? So there's like still space for them to do it. But this whole like cards attached to your location were like unplayable for the longest time. And then Parallel Ashcan Peak came out and they all suddenly got a new life. And then this was kind of the idea of the thing they do sometimes where they take an investigator's ability and put it on a player card. And I think that's good. I think that they should do that. I think you should be able to play, for example, a worse version of Schizo Tool with Swift Reflexes. I think you should be able to play a worse version of Roland Banks with Evidence, right? Like, I think these are all good things. I think, like, all of that just means that there's, like, more synergy between card pools, right? So, like, other investigators can do these things just much worse. And I think this, like, Parallel Ash can Pete, but worse is good. And I think that there's so many cool things that even just the flavor of cards attached to locations would be hyped to see. My favorite thing I've ever done in Arkham, and this is easily the thing that I go to bed thinking about, it's that much head and shoulders above the rest, is when I brought a Parallel Ash Campy to a multiplayer blob day, and I put Shortcut 2 on the center location. And then when I moved through the location with my track shoes, I picked it up with Survival Technique and put it on a different location. And that was such like a reward, where as the player, you found this sick combo that was very powerful, and Survival Technique enables that. And like that's what I think should be rewarded with card design.
Yeah, the trouble is that it kind of followed up a lot of cards that you're like, why do I want to play these Survivor cards in particular, the traps and whatnot? And did anything come out in this cycle to use it with in Hemlock Vale?
I don't think so.
Because there was Makeshift Trap right before, which is reasonable to use, but gosh, like I can't think of. I mean, there's really interesting ideas that you could do with this, right? You can pick up Breach the Door, you can pick up Shortcut, as you said.
Well, I guess Breach the Door came out on Hemlock. This was for Kate,
Keys, right?
Oh, was Scarlet Keys for Breach the Door? I thought that was Hemlock. No, I guess then there must have been all that stuff synergizing with that, because this is definitely a Kate card.
Yeah,
they released this here.
Science.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's like cool stuff that you can do, but I think people kind of have this mindset of all those cards being the version they've seen them, either unplayable with some of those Survivor ones, or kind of one use only in the other classes. So yeah, I mean, dude, let's see some more things that attach and see what you can do with it.
Yeah,
it's
and
recursion, right? This is a very Survivor thing.
Yeah, it is. It is just like event, like trap based, like set stuff down recursion, which is hype as hell. And I think just more things to recur. Like, yeah, it's going to make Parallel Ash Campete stronger, but he's already has the strongest card in the game ever printed as a signature, right? So we don't need to worry about him being stronger. He's already the apex.
Ship has failed.
Yeah, and he's already like he's parallel, so he's not really technically real. Yeah, but I just want to see more of the attached to stuff. I think that's really cool. And he could. I think this like makes it so again, multiple people can do that.
Mm-hmm. Although it's kind of tough to figure out like who else wants to take up like those card slots to do it, because then you're kind of ignoring something else about them. So maybe what we need is another investigator who isn't Ashcan Pete, but get something else from them, like draw a card after you play, attach a card to a location, or something like that.
Yeah, or even just like effects that can synergize with investigators. So, like for example, an event that has like 2 uses, and when an enemy enters, like they get evaded. So then Rita could also ping them when she triggers that, right? And then she wants to pick it back up.
Well, like, I mean, we have that, right? Isn't Under Surveillance that card?
No, I think though that's that one gets discarded though. These all get discarded on use. Like that's the big thing too. They need to like not discard.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's why Parallel Campete's so good too, because he can pick them up.
Yes, yeah, that's because he gets them back after they use. Like that's what you need. You need like more like passive effects, like map the area, or breach the door, or effects that have uses like makeshift trap. Because like, or even like for example, like instead of Matchbox being like even like they look at Matchbox, instead of being an asset that discards itself, make it an event that attaches to a location that people can use, right? Like that small change would make it so it's not just like classic scavenging fodder, but instead it's a card that can actually synergize with Survival Technique in a way that's a little bit more interesting than just being a survivor asset that discards itself when it's all used up.
Yeah, so basically it needs to stay forever and not just discard itself. Yeah, that makes sense. But maybe, yeah. Okay, I think there's something there. I think they just need a new investigator who can do something with that, because a lot of these cards we've mentioned are out of class too, which isn't necessarily bad, but it feels a little awkward to take up a survivor spot when you're playing it in Kate.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with that as well. Like, it's like right now you're basically, I'm not even touching this in Kate. Like, I know there's the Breach the Door combo, which is like really cool, but this is pretty much still just for parallel Ashcan Pete, and it's very good in parallel Ashcan Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That was our list video, and that was a good one, too. Always enjoy some of that discussion. Thanks for joining me for that one, Daniel. I hope you also enjoyed it.
I did.
All right. And with that, another list video is in the book, so thank you everyone who watched. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, all that classic YouTube stuff. What are some archetypes you want to see revisited? Please let us know in the comments because we both read them. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.